So how to put this? How to do this question? So first we are going to find the roots for the auxiliary equation. So what would be the auxiliary equation to same? The auxiliary equation would be m square plus 4m. Auxiliary equation would be 4 square plus 4m. I think there would be some 4 as well, equals to 0. That implies m equal to minus 2 comma minus 2. So there are repeated zeros. Okay. So if there are repeated zeros to this equation, then how the solution would be? Solution would be y as a function of x would be c1 plus c2x e की पावर -2x. यहां तक सबका आ गया होगा. Okay. And given conditions that y at 1/5 is equal to 0, it implies what? It implies that I know that e की power -2/5 cannot be 0. So in any way, this will be like c1 equal to minus c2/5. c1 equals to minus c2/5. Because if I write 1/5 here, 1/5 equal to 0, this can not be 0. So obviously, this is the case. Okay, or I can write my c2 as minus 5 c1 as well. So if I write y as a function of x, I will write c1 minus 5 c1x, and I can write e की power -2x. I hope it is clear. I know. I think it is clear. Okay, and I have got no other hint to find c1. That is why the TFR question says with certainty, because they have concealed a hint. So they should have given two hints. So they should have given two hints in order to find c1 and c2 both. So I have an equation which suggests that there is a relation between c1 and c2, but not beyond that. So for that, I needed another equation, another initial condition. Only then I can find the values of c1 and c2 separately. So in general, I know that my y is a function of x. I have reduced it to some constant. I forget about this. अच्छा चलो लिख लो c1 को फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा. 1 minus 5x e की power -2x. Now it says that function increases, then decreases, decreases, then increases. So all those kind of questions are there. In all of the things, you can see that as x tends to infinity, you know that e की power -2x would tend to 0. So in all cases, your yx tends to 0. In all the cases, you can see that your yx tends to 0. Now, don't argue that as infinity hoga, to ye bhi to infinity ho jayega. Obviously, ho jayega. But understand that if I have a polynomial on numerator and on the denominator, if I have an exponential, this limit in any way is going to be 0. Because exponential on any day has a greater rate of growth than polynomial. Or let's say this is a polynomial of order n. So I'll estimate it to x raised to power n divided by e की power x. Because as x tends to infinity, I'll write the highest order. Now, in order to solve this, what you are going to do, you're going to use L'Hospital. And you're going to differentiate the above and below n times at least. Because if you do not differentiate it n times, then anyway, any term in x would remain up. So this will be like after differentiating n time, it will be n factorial upon e की power x, and x tends to infinity, it will remain to 0. It will go to 0. Similarly, you can write 1 minus 5 to x divided by e की power to x, this entire term. So anyway, always remember that here, no doubt, as x tends to infinity, this particular portion is also becoming infinity, and this is going to 0. So you can say infinity by infinity to 0 is some indeterminate form. No. So this will be like 1 minus 5x divided by e की power 2x. You just take the limit. Using L'Hospital rule, you can find that this limiting value is equals to 0. Is that clear till now? So all of these options you cannot just reject, because all of them says that finally the function is going to 0, 0, 0. This is also an option that we'll see. Okay. Now see, in any case, in order to find that your function is increasing or decreasing, you have to find the derivative. So let us find the derivative. The derivative will be minus 5 c1 e की power -2x plus c1 1 minus 5x minus 2 e की power -2x. This is how it is going to be. So overall, I can write this minus 2c1 plus 10c1 minus, I think ये कितना होगा, देखो 2 ही तो होगा, plus 10c1 minus 5c1 और है ना, ऐसे कुछ आना चाहिए e की power -2x. You see, So overall, I know that my y dash x is equals to some तो गलती हो रही है, अच्छा 10 c1 x हो गया, ठीक है, इट विल बी लाइक 10, एक काम करो c1 कॉमन लो, इट विल बी लाइक 10x minus 7 e की पावर minus 2x. So your y dash x is equal to this. Is that clear? Okay, is that clear? Now you don't know about the c1. So if y dash x is greater than 0 on an interval, so on an interval I, if I say that my function is increasing, it implies your y dash x must be greater than 0. And if your y dash x must be greater than equal to 0, it implies your 10x minus 7 must be greater than 0, provided c1 is greater than 0. Provided c1 is greater than 0. So right now I'm doing the case if c1 is greater than 0. So if c1 is greater than 0, then for all x greater than 7 by 10, my function would be increasing. And for all x less than 7 by 10, my function would be decreasing. Because see, if c1 is negative, then things would change. Are you getting my point or not getting my point? So on an interval I, if I say that my function is increasing, then on that interval I, my derivative should be positive. This is clear. So in that case, if I want to write that my derivative is positive, exponential is always positive, forget about it. It implies that C1 10 in 10x minus 7 should be 10x minus 7 should be positive. But if it is given that C1 is positive, I don't know about C1. C1 is an arbitrary constant whose value cannot be determined from the conditions given to us. Okay, so the conditions given to us are not suffice to find the value C1. Okay. So if C1 is positive in that particular case, uh, if x is greater than 7 by 10, then my function is increasing. And if x is less than 7 by 10, my function is decreasing. And similarly, I can extend this to if C1 is less than 0, then for all x greater than 7 by 10, my function is decreasing. And for all x less than 7 by 10, my function is increasing. Is that clear? So overall, I can write one thing, and with all with a great thought in mind, that if this is my axis, this is my 7 by 10, I'm very sure that to the left of it, my function would be increasing, and to the right of it, my function would be decreasing if C1 is negative. And here is my 7 by 10, and if C1 is greater than 0, then for all x less than 7 by 10, my function is decreasing, and for all x greater than 7 by 10, my function is increasing. So my function first increases, then decreases, and in fact, I know that as x tends to infinity to 0, so as x tends to infinity, my function is going to 0, and as x tends to infinity, my function is going to 0. Or my function first decreases and then increases and goes to 0. Both of these are possible, but they require you to find C1. They require you to find C1, which indeed you cannot find from the given condition. So therefore, it says with all certainty, you cannot say this. Both of the options, obviously, they can be right. Both of the options can be right depending upon the value of C1, which you are not given. So both of the options can be rejected because you cannot say anything with certainty. Is that clear? Certainty means what? You want to say कि certainty से क्या कह सकते हो? मतलब निश्चितता से क्या कह सकते हो? निश्चितता से तुम तभी कोई चीज कह पाओगे जब you know the value of C1. You can say with all certainty that how the function behaves, that it first increases, then decreases, or first decreases and then increases. It only can be said with certainty if you know the value of C1. Or you can say precisely if you know the sign of C1. So with certainty, you cannot say both of these. But you can instantly say that yes, y dash x would be 0 at x equal to 7 by 10. And what these points are? These points are either maxima or minima. For that, you need second derivative, sign. You need to know the derivative of second derivative. You need to know the sign of the second derivative. If you are applying the second derivative test, you need to know what is the sign of the second derivative. But again, the problem would be that you do not know with certainty. We do not know with certainty what sign it would have. Because again, if you find that at x equal to 7 by 10, your derivative is becoming 0, it implies that 7 by 10 is either maxima or minima. But in order to say that it is maxima, you have to find this derivative, the sign of the second derivative, which indeed you cannot find because you do not know the sign of C1. But in generality, you can say yes, that at 7 by 10, there would be either maximum or minimum. That implies at 7 by 10, you have an extremum, and which is given that it has an extremum in the range 0, 1. Yes, because 7 by 10 lies in this range. Oscillates with decreasing amplitude, not at all. Forget about it. Why forget about it? Let us come to this also. The last option. What does it mean? So it says that a function is such that it oscillates and the amplitude decreases to 0. So one of the example you can see is this. So this is kind of oscillating function whose amplitude is decreasing to 0 as x tends to infinity. So how to make such graphs? So you know how to make the graph of exponential, decreasing exponential. So you can make, this is how you can make the graph of exponential, e to the power minus alpha x. And because sine beta x is there, so you can say that if this is the function, then this particular function, which is sine beta x e to the power minus alpha x, this will always lie between e to the power minus alpha x to e to the power, minus e to the power minus alpha x to e to the power minus alpha x. So if this is e to the power minus, this is e to the power minus alpha x, so this will be like minus, this is how it is going to be. And this particular sine beta x is now enveloped in this particular thing. Now your amplitude is governed by another another function. Now it's no longer a constant here, so your sine would go, but it has to be enveloped between this only. So this is how you make the graph of e to the power minus alpha x sine beta x. Is that clear? So is that the kind of function that we have? No. Here you can see that no doubt e to the power minus 2x is enveloped by a function, but it is not an oscillating function. It is rather a polynomial, like you can say a linear function, which tends to infinity as x tends to infinity. So the last option is rejected. Is that clear or not? So this was asked in physics only. So you cannot say that this was asked in mathematics or things like that. No, it was asked in physics. I hope it is clear. Has anybody got any doubt? Is that clear? नहीं clear है क्या?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if in case we move forward and let us try to discuss. Look, the problem is this, that I'm going to discuss only previous year question. So what you do, you just on your own do some applied mathematics book, at least five questions of each type, so that again it makes your ground clear. At least there you are clear. So this is what is my suggestion to you. So let us try to find what is sometimes known as particular integrals. So I'm right now doing method of symbolic operators only. In that, I'm trying to find the different ways to find the particular integral, and I'm going to solve at least one problem today, so that at least it gets in your head that how to solve the problem. Okay. Now, when a particular integral is required, see if your differential equation was a homogeneous one, then the solution is called as your complementary function. Now, if your differential equation is a non-homogeneous one, let's say a naught plus a1 a naught d1's a naught d square plus a1 d plus a2 and this y is equal to some f of x, then one needs to find, then the solution is given by complementary function plus particular integral, and one needs to understand that this particular integral is linearly independent to the complementary function. So this is so constructed that this is linearly independent to complementary function. So what one needs to do, one needs to find the solution for the corresponding homogeneous differential equation of the above, which happens to be the complementary function. And then one needs to find what is known as your particular integral. And right now I am following the method of symbolic operators. And the first of the cases is that if f of x is equals to e to the power alpha x, if this is the case, then what happens? So one of the ways to do this is Ly is equal to e to the power alpha x, and L would be some function of d. L would be some function of d. So particular integral would be 1 upon fd e to the power alpha x. Okay, this is the case. And what you need to do is you just need to replace your d by alpha. You just need to replace your d by alpha. I'm not going into the derivation part because that would take a lot of our time. This is how it is. Provided f of alpha is non-zero. Provided your f of alpha is non-zero. This is how your particular integral can be obtained. Is that clear? Now, if in case you do not, if you see that your alpha, at f of alpha, your function is 0. At least this is a single root, like alpha is a simple 0. Then what you'll do, you'll simply write it as x e की power alpha x divided by f dash alpha. Simple 0 means f dash alpha cannot be 0. So if your f alpha is 0 and your f dash alpha is non-zero, then this is how you are going to write the particular integral. Now, if in case your f alpha is 0 and your f dash alpha is 0, but your f double dash alpha is non-zero, then the solution would be x square upon 2 factorial e की power alpha x f double dash alpha. Is that clear? So this is how you're going to write your particular integral. Is that clear or not clear? Or you can say that if your alpha is a root of multiplicity p, if alpha is the root of multiplicity p, then your y p can be written as x की power p, and you can write e की power alpha x p factorial fp alpha. Is that clear or not clear?
Clear, sir.
Okay. So I hope all these formulas you know, and if you don't know, kindly visit them in any of your basic textbook. Okay, basic textbook. I think it is clear. Now let us do a question.
फिर इसमें अल्फा क्या है सर?
Alpha is the root. Like इसमें कैसे समझाऊं? देखो
कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री फंक्शन का सॉल्यूशन मैसेज आई है।
नहीं, देखो मेरी बात सुनने की कोशिश करो। देखो, एक होता था कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री फंक्शन। कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री फंक्शन क्या होता था? व्हेन आई वाज टेलिंग अबाउट कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री फंक्शन, व्हाट यू यूज्ड टू डू, यू यूज्ड टू फाइंड, लाइक जैसे ये एफ डी दिख रहा है, y इज इक्वल टू एफ ऑफ एक्स है। सो दिस इज पहली बात तो नॉन होमोजेनियस linear differential equation. It is inhomogeneous linear differential equation. First thing is find complementary function, मतलब fx को जीरो करो, fx को जीरो कर दो, find complementary function. Now you are going to find particular integral because now it is no longer a it is inhomogeneous differential equation ना। तो एक तो आप पता करेंगे complementary function, और एक आपको पता करना पड़ेगा particular integral। तो particular integral is equal to 1 upon fd e की power alpha x. Is that clear? ये जो alpha है, simply replace it in the place of d here. Just replace this alpha in the place of d here. If f of alpha is non-zero, then particular integral is given by this. Okay, but if your alpha is a root of function fx, your fd, then it will be 0. Then what to do? You simply multiply with x and differentiate your ये वाला term f dash. Instead of f, just do f dash alpha. समझ में आया नहीं आया? मैं वापस बोलूं ये चीज?
नहीं सर, ठीक है।
ठीक है। देन अगर मान लेते हैं कि ऐसा हुआ कि अल्फा इज अ रूट ऑफ मल्टीप्लिसिटी 2, तो रूट ऑफ मल्टीप्लिसिटी 2 का मतलब क्या होगा? एफ अल्फा 0 होगा, एफ डैश अल्फा भी 0 होगा, लेकिन एफ डबल डैश अल्फा 0 नहीं होगा। सॉरी, एफ डबल डैश अल्फा 0 नहीं होगा। तब क्या करेंगे? एक्स स्क्वायर इंटू ई की पावर अल्फा एक्स डिवाइड बाय 2 फैक्टोरियल एफ डबल डैश अल्फा। शायद 2 फैक्टोरियल नहीं करना पड़ता इसके अंदर, यू जस्ट करेक्ट दिस फॉर्मूला ना, 2 फैक्टोरियल नहीं करना, जस्ट करेक्ट द फॉर्मूला। और अगर आपके पास रूट ऑफ मल्टीप्लिसिटी p है, दिस अपने आप ही आ जाएगा p फैक्टर। then what you have to do, you have to simply multiply with x की power p divide by fp alpha. Is that clear or not? बस ऐसा ही करना है। This is how the formula is. So now let us do a question and then try to understand this thing in detail. So the question is that if I have this question, I think this is the best question to illustrate the one that I'm going to write. It was asked in net exam. So again, it is a good question. But not in physics, it was in mathematics, it was asked. So I think that would serve your purpose entirely. Just give me a minute. Meanwhile, I locate your question. That was a good question. Okay, here it is. So question says that let y be defined from R to R, be a solution of ordinary differential equation given by d2y upon dx2 minus y is equal to e की power minus x for all x belongs to R, such that y0 is equal to 0 and dy by dx at 0 is equal to 0. Then option number 1 says y attains its minimum on R. Option number 2 says y is bounded on R. Option number C says limit x tends to infinity e की power minus x yx is equals to 1 over 4. And option number 4 says limit x tends to infinity. I think there's some problem with the last option. Let us see. Limit x tends to infinity e की power x yx is 1 by 4. Let us see which of the following option is correct. Okay, is that clear? So this is again a question of inhomogeneous linear differential equation. Okay. So how to go about it? So first thing is to find a homogeneous. First is to solve the corresponding homogeneous part in order to find the complementary function. So in order to find the complementary function, one has to solve this. That is, one has to solve d square minus 1 equal to 0. That implies d is equal to plus minus 1. So you have two roots, and both of these roots are real and unequal. So the solution can be written as e की power minus ex plus e की power. Sorry. Are you getting my point that these two are the, this is how you're going to write your solution for the corresponding homogeneous part. Is that clear? So corresponding homogeneous part is this, and the solution for the corresponding homogeneous part would be a complementary function given by this. Is that clear? हाँ या ना, जल्दी जल्दी बताओ फटाफट से. Is that clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now one needs to find particular integrals. What would be particular integral? Particular integral would be 1 upon fd. Instead of fd, you have to write d square minus 1. And you have an fx here. So instead of fx, you can write e की power minus x. Is that clear? Now what I told you, that instead of d, you have to replace alpha. And what is alpha here? Alpha is minus 1. So if you replace minus 1 here, minus 1 ka square is 1, 1 minus 1 would be 0. So obviously this cannot be the case. What you'll do, you will simply differentiate the below, multiply above by x and e की power minus x. Is that clear? Or you can do other ways also, like you can do other ways. You can do things. समझ में आया? आपको क्या करना है? f dash minus. ये चीज समझ में आई कि ऊपर चलेगी. देखो एफ डी की जगह जब आप एफ अल्फा लिखोगे तो व्हाट इज डी? एफ डी इज डी स्क्वायर माइनस 1. एफ अल्फा क्या है? आई थिंक माइनस 1 का स्क्वायर माइनस 1, दैट विल बी 0. सो करना क्या पड़ेगा? ऊपर वाले को x से मल्टीप्लाई करो, नीचे वाला जो एफ डी है उसको डिफरेंशिएट करो. सो दिस विल बी लाइक एफ डैश एंड प्लेस माइनस 1. इज दैट क्लियर और नॉट?
Clear, sir.
भरत समझ में आया नहीं है?
समझ में आया सर. आपने 2 क्यों काट दिया नीचे से डिनोमिनेटर?
2 इसलिए काट दिया, एफ डैश माइनस 1 लिख दिया उसको. एफ डैश माइनस 1 करोगे तो माइनस 2 अपना लिखा जाएगा.
ठीक है सर, ठीक
है ना, इसलिए. सो yp विल बी माइनस ऑफ आई थिंक एफ डैश ये कितना होगा? 2d होगा, और d की जगह माइनस 1 लिखेंगे तो x e की पावर माइनस x अपॉन 2. ऐसे कुछ आना चाहिए. यहां तक किसी को डाउट है? सो दिस इज योर पर्टिकुलर इंटीग्रल. Now total solution, that is total solution for this differential equation would be c1 e की power minus x plus c2 e की power x minus x e की power minus x upon 2. Now there are two conditions given to you, y0 equal to 0, here y dash 0 is equal to 0. Just find me the values of c1 and c2 from here. Fatafat se. I'm giving you a minute. Try to find the values of c1 and c2. Just I'm giving you a minute. Try to find c1 and c2 from these two given conditions. These two given conditions are there. Just try to find the values of c1 and c2 so that at least we end up getting the right solution. I'm giving you 1 minute. Try to find them.
सर C1 की 1/4 और C2 की -1/4.
पक्का? I can believe ना, गलत तो नहीं किया ना? C1 is 1/4
and C2 is -1/4.
ठीक है. सो अगर ऐसा जो रजत कह रहा है वो सही है, then it will be like 1/4 e की पावर -x, ऐसा कुछ. राइट? पक्का ना? मैं सही मान लूं उसको, मैं नहीं सोच रहा था इसमें.
यस
ठीक
सर,
है,
सही है, सही.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. सो दिस इज हाउ इट इज. नाउ व्हाट आर द ऑप्शंस? Options are to find maximum, minimum, boundedness, and all those things. So पहले देखते हैं whether y is bounded on R or not. So देखो, now as x tends to infinite, your e की power -x would tend to infinite, tend to 0. So anyway, this will go to 0, this will go to 0, but this will go towards infinity. So your yx would tend towards minus infinity. Is that clear? Because as x tends to infinity, obviously this will become 0. This will also become 0 because of the discussion I made that x into e की power -x, I can write as x upon e की power x. This will go to 0. But this term would go towards infinity. There's a minus sign supplied to it. So overall, this particular overall term would go towards minus infinity. And if x tends to minus infinite, your e की power x would go towards 0. This will go towards 0, but this is infinite. This is infinitely very large. Is that clear? And this is also infinitely very large because x tends to minus infinite. This is going to be very large. Minus is already supplied. Here it is again x. X is again tending to minus infinity. Overall, this entire term would go towards infinity. Or should I like ऐसे समझाऊं? देखो ऐसे कर दूं. तो limit x tends to minus infinity. Forget about this term because x tends to minus infinity. This will go to 0. It is equivalent to writing 1 over. If I take 4 common and even e की power minus x common, so it will be like e की power minus x by 4. 1 uh, minus 2x. So in a case, you can see that as x tends to minus infinity, this entire term is going towards infinity. And this is also becoming infinitely large. So overall, this entire term, when summed up, will become very, very large. That is, it will be an infinitely large quantity. So I cannot write that my y-axis is bounded. Rather, I can say that y-axis is unbounded. Is that clear? हाँ है ना, फटाफट से बोलो. So y-x cannot be bounded on R. खत्म बात.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that clear? ठीक है. अब देखो क्या कह रहे हैं कि e की पावर x से मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं तो e की पावर माइनस x से मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं. सो लेट अस मल्टीप्लाई द सॉल्यूशन बाय e की पावर माइनस x. So if I multiply the solution with e की पावर minus x and try to find limit, so if I multiply, this will become e की पावर minus 2x divided by 4. This will become minus 1 by 4. This will become x into e की power minus 2x by 2. And as x tends to infinity, I know that this particular term would go to 0. This particular term would also go to 0. Overall, this will survive. This will be minus 1 by 4, not 1 by 4. So this is also wrong. And if I multiply with e की power x, so if I multiply with e की power x, my yx, it would be like 1 over 4. It will be 1 here, 1 by 4 e की power x into e की power. It will be e की power 2x divided, I think it should be minus infinity here. It is minus infinity. So let us do the, let us do it for minus infinity. Okay, sorry. So if I do for the tending to minus infinity, so this is like e की power x into e की power minus x. This will become 1 by 4. And this will be e की power 2x upon 4. Then last term would be x. In any case, this is not going to work. Okay. In any case, this is not going to work. As x tends to minus infinity, again, this is tending towards infinity only. X tends to minus infinity also, if I take, this will tend towards infinity only. So I thought there is some discrepancy in the question. There is no discrepancy in the question as such. So overall, even if it is tending towards infinity or minus infinity, even if it tends to infinity or minus infinity, anyway, this is not going to 1 by 4. It is going towards infinity. Is that clear or not clear? Actually, there is some discrepancy in the question because this was not how it was. But कोई बात नहीं, जो है जो है. Let us make a question on our own side. अगर मैं इसको दोनों तरफ evaluate करता हूँ, अगर मैं e की power x multiply करता हूँ, if I multiply with e की power x, this will become 1, this will become e की power 2x, and this will again become x by 2. Is that clear? एंड इन एनी केस x टेंस टू माइनस इन्फिनिटी ले लेंगे तो ये 0 हो जाएगा, लेकिन माइनस इन्फिनिटी पे लेने पे ये इन्फिनिटी हो जाएगा। अगर मैं x टेंस टू इन्फिनिटी ले लेता हूँ, मान लेते क्वेश्चन नहीं मतलब ऑप्शन शायद बुक में गलत प्रिंट हो गया, अगर ऐसा भी मान लेते हैं x टेंस टू इन्फिनिटी भी लोगे, सो इन कंपैरिजन टू बोथ ऑफ देम which is growing very fast exponential, so forget about this. So infinity पे ये again infinity पे भागेगा, माइनस इन्फिनिटी रहेगा। In any case, this is infinity large, it cannot be 1/4. Is that clear? इसका
सर
मतलब, हाँ बोलो बेटा।
सेकंड
जो
ऑप्शन
हमने
जब अपन कर रहे थे ना,
हाँ बेटा बोलो।
सेकंड ऑप्शन के लिए जब हम सॉल्यूशन कर रहे थे ना,
हम्म
तो उसके अंदर अपन ने e की पावर माइनस एक्स कॉमन लिया था।
हम्म
तो एक जो e की पावर x वाली टर्म वो नहीं आएगी क्या, जिसमें 2x हो जाएगा?
आई एम नॉट गेटिंग द पॉइंट। सेकंड वाला सॉल्यूशन करो, ये वाला, इज दैट व्हाट यू आर
यस
रेफरिंग टू?
यस सर नीचे, नीचे सर, और नीचे
ये दिस वन।
सर, ये अपन ने किया लिमिट x टेंड्स टू माइनस इंफिनिटी, जिसमें अपन e की पावर माइनस एक्स कॉमन लिया अपॉन 4, अपन ने 1 माइनस 2x लिखा है इस साइड में।
अच्छा दिस वन राइट।
यस सर, हाँ।
हाँ जी, x टेंड्स टू
इसके
माइनस।
अंदर
हाँ।
इसके अंदर अपन ने e की पावर माइनस एक्स कॉमन लिया,
हम्म
तो अंदर एक e की पावर 2x भी बचेगा ना?
ना 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 ना, सुनो मेरी बात। What I told was कि x tends to minus infinity, this will become zero anyway.
ओके
X tends to minus infinity, this will become zero. So I was concerned about these two terms. और वो इसलिए मैं
ओके
कर रहा था क्योंकि एट टाइम्स पीपल आस्क कि आप इन्फिनिटी में इन्फिनिटी जोड़ रहे हो, ये इंडिटरमिनेट होता है और ऐसा वैसा। दैट इज व्हाई आई जस्ट
यस
ट्राई टू सॉल्व। मैंने तुम्हें ऐसा बताने की कोशिश की।
ओके
इन एक्चुअली
ओके
द क्वेश्चन दैट वाज गिवन इन नेट एग्जाम, बिकॉज this was in net exam, this was I think some mistake is there in the book, so forget about it in these of
सर
both of
सर
these। हाँ बोलो।
सर जो ये हमने थर्ड ऑप्शन चेक किया है ना,
हम्म
तो सर जैसे कि हम जो C1 C2 की वैल्यू रखते हैं, तो हमारी एक वैल्यू आ रही है +1/4 और दूसरी आ रही है -1/4,
हम्म
है ना? तो अगर मैं जो प्लस वाली टर्म है C1 इक्वल टू 1/4 को अगर मैं e की पावर h के साथ रखता हूँ, और C2
हम्म
इक्वल टू -1/4 को e की पावर -h के साथ रखता हूँ,
हम्म
तो सर उसकी अगर वैसा करते हैं ना, तो सी ऑप्शन जो हमारा थर्ड ऑप्शन है वो करेक्ट हो रहा है।
हाँ, इसलिए मैं तुमसे कहता हूँ C1 C2 गलत मत निकालना, पर आई डोंट
नहीं
नो।
सर, निकाले तो सही है,
अगर ये सही
निकाले
है
तो
then,
सही है
अगर if these are the
सर।
answers then the both of them cannot be an answer, like दोनों
सर
आंसर नहीं।
C1 C2, सर C1 C2 में ना माइनस वाले साइन की मेरा लगा रहा है, C1 -1/4 आ रहा है, C2 1/4 है,
C1
तो
से
उससे
पहले
आप
1/4,
हाँ तो इसको
C2
चेक
से पहले
करना
-2।
है ना, इसको चेक करना, बिकॉज आई नो दैट देयर इज सम मिस्टेक, बिकॉज इन नेट एग्जाम इनमें से कोई एक ऑप्शन सही था, मतलब सो आई वाज थिंकिंग कि यहाँ मैंने कोई गलती करी होगी, एक बुक में कोई गलती होगी। फॉरगेट अबाउट इट,
फिर
जस्ट
फोर्थ
डोंट।
ऑप्शन सही आ रहा
अभी
है।
के,
नहीं
चलो मैं एक
सर,
बार
C2
वापस।
1/4 आ रहा है और C1 -1/4।
यस सर,
यस
तो उससे फिर फोर्थ ऑप्शन आएगा सर सही।
ठीक है, तो अगर मैं इसको एक्सटेंशन इन्फिनिटी रखता हूँ, ई की पावर एक्स ही रखता हूँ, और मैं कह, तुमने मुझे बोला कि C1 -1/4 आ रहा है, और क्या बोल रहे हो, सॉरी, C2 +1/4 आ रहा है, कोई बात नहीं अब। ठीक है, अगर ऐसा है देन कोई बात नहीं है, वापस करना पड़ेगा।
तो
ठीक है, इसको यहाँ से काटते हैं, है ना। अगर ये आंसर है देन आई डोंट नो, मतलब मैंने इसलिए तुमसे कहा था C1 C2 गलत मत निकालना, क्योंकि वो गलत निकले तो फिर सब कचरा हो जाएगा। ठीक है, चलो करते हैं। सो अगर जैसा तुम कह रहे हो वो सही मानो, तो यहाँ -1/4 है, राइट, वही हुआ बात, है ना। हालांकि इस पे तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला, फंक्शन अनबाउंडेड ही रहने वाला है, लेकिन मैं एक बार e की पावर -x से मल्टीप्लाई करता हूँ, तो e की पावर -x से अगर मैं मल्टीप्लाई करूंगा, लिमिट x टेंड्स टू इन्फिनिटी निकालने की कोशिश करूंगा, तो क्या आएगा, इट विल बी -1/4 e की पावर -2x, एंड देन दिस विल बी +1/4, एंड दिस विल बी लाइक -x/2 e की पावर -2x, and now if I try to find limit x tends to infinity, then this will become 1/4. Is that clear? This is what you want to say, no? So in that case
यस
यस
your
सर।
option C would be correct. So इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ जल्दीबाजी नहीं करनी, एग्जाम में तुम एक गलती करोगे और कचरा हो जाएगा। इवन इफ यू नो थिंग्स, प्लीज डोंट डू सच मिस्टेक्स। ऐसा मैं तुम्हें डांट नहीं रहा हूँ, जस्ट सेइंग कि प्लीज मत करो, बिकॉज आई लीव दीज थिंग्स टू यू, बिकॉज आई फील कि नहीं यार ये तो हो जाएगा, इसमें क्या है, बट just don't do mistakes. I know that it may happen, but don't do those mistakes. So abhi this you can verify on your own that this is not going towards 1/4, it is going towards infinity. Is that clear? Like if you multiply with e की power x,
Yes, sir.
instead if you multiply with e की power x, anyway you know that this will survive, and if this survives, then it will go towards infinity. So it will not go towards 1/4. So option number D is rejected. Is that clear or not clear? हाँ या ना तो बोलो बच्चों.
Clear,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Now the option number 1, it implies whether this is correct or not. Y attains in minimum on R. How would you do? How to find a minimum of a function? You know that your function is given by yx is equal to क्या था? वापस वही है -1/4 e की पावर -x minus e की पावर x minus x into e की पावर -x upon. Is that clear? So now we have to find the minimum of this function, and we have to say that whether the minimum is attained on R or not. मतलब कोई real value पे आपका yx minimum होगा कि नहीं होगा, you have to find. How to find that? Just give me an answer to this. क्या करोगे? Derivative करोगे? You will equate it to 0, find the values of x, then you will find the second derivative. Try to place that point in the second derivative and see the sign of the second derivative. Is it? हाँ या ना तो बोलो.
हाँ सर.
हाँ जी. तो ऐसा नहीं करना एग्जाम में, ठीक है? बिकॉज दैट विल कॉस्ट यू अनदर 5 to 10 minutes. Or at times when you have this equation which is having exponential and again some like algebraic term, it will become unsolvable. Okay, मतलब analytically इसको possible नहीं है. You will have to solve it using graph or something. Better क्या होगा? थोड़ा सा दिमाग लगाते हैं, थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन की तरफ देखो. You can see that your function is second order differentiable, है ना? y0 0 दे रखा है, and it is also given that your y dash 0 is 0. इसका मतलब I can claim, my claim is that my 0 is a point of extremum, isn't it? जहां पे डेरिवेटिव 0 हो रहा है, it may be a point of extremum, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes,
देखो
sir.
यहाँ चुपचाप y डबल डैश 0 पता कर. कैसे पता करोगे? You know that your y double dash minus y is given as e की पावर -x. Put x equal to 0 here. क्या आ रहा है? y double dash 0 minus y0 is equal to e की पावर -0 1. ये 0 है, इसका मतलब y डबल डैश 0 कितना आएगा? 1. इसका मतलब y डबल डैश 0 क्या आएगा? पॉजिटिव. इसका मतलब 0 क्या होगा? पॉइंट ऑफ मिनिमम. सो इट अटेन्स इट मिनिमम इन R. खत्म. हेडेक नहीं लेना एग्जाम के अंदर. सो एग्जाम में यू आर नॉट, किसी को बताने की जरूरत नहीं कि तुम बहुत इंटेलिजेंट हो एंड यू नो एवरीथिंग. यू हैव टू बी थोड़ा सा स्मार्ट, एंड पॉसिबली एग्जामिनर आल्सो वांट्स यू द सेम. देखो ना, उसने हिंट दे रखा है. Otherwise, what is the way ahead? You can differentiate it, put equal to 0, and I'm very sure that if you differentiate it, product rule will insist that once you're going to keep this undifferentiated and differentiate this term, and other time you'll have to differentiate this and keep this undifferentiated. The time you're doing this will be some transcendental equation. That is, it is not an algebraic equation whose solution you can find very easily. So this will be a transcendental equation involving exponential as well as x. So you have to solve it using graph. And then you have to show using graph that yes, there exists a point in real number where your derivative is 0. And then you have to find the second derivative. And then you have to, like very analytically, you have to find that what are the signs for the same. So it will be a very difficult exercise for you, at least in the examination. So at least in the examination, so this thing would work. And this is absolutely right thing to do. Like this is not even tips and tricks. So this is quite like very much evident that derivative is 0 at 0. So necessary condition for existence of extreme I is the derivative must be 0. Indeed it is at 0. Find the second derivative. The second derivative is positive. So obviously 0 is the point of minimum. Is that clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay जी. So आज के लिए बहुत काफी हो गया. We'll meet tomorrow and try to finish this topic in 2 days or so. Okay?
Okay, sir.
MSc वाले बच्चे keep coming because you people come, so मेरा थोड़ा मन रहता है. Otherwise it becomes a very mundane lecture because everybody knows everything. Then what is the point of teaching?
Yes, sir.
Okay जी. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.